Michael Avenatti, the former attorney for Stormy Daniels, is saying that Michael Cohen has more evidence on Trump indicating that he paid off even more women to basically keep quiet about affairs that they had with Donald Trump. So let me give you Avenatti's exact statement. He alleged that Donald Trump conspired with Michael Cohen to pay off multiple other women prior to Election Day in 2016. He also claims that they were also concerned about a pregnancy.
So look, we've gone over one part of this before, and then I want to talk about a second part. So you know Karen McDougal, now we know for a fact that Donald Trump did sleep with her and then paid her off, even though he lied about it. We move on past these things that are now taken as givens. Donald Trump cheated on his wife all the time with Playboy models and porn stars, etc. The evangelical right wing, who pretended to care about that kind of morality, now says, no, I don't care how immoral you are as long as you hate the same people I do. Okay, that's a given. Number two given is they lied, brazenly lied, said, oh, Karen McDougal, that's not true at all. Now we know there's tape, absolutely true, Trump did pay her off, okay? So, but okay, it's a given, Donald Trump's a liar, it is what it is, but we'll call it 50-50 and move on, okay? So now we get to the issue of were the laws broken, and then was there something even worse, okay? And so there's the issue of Bouchard, that is another former Playboy model. They say that Elliot Brody, a guy who is a big Republican fundraiser and a Trump fundraiser, is the one who paid her $1.6 million because he had an affair with her. Brody in the past has been charged with paying off the mistresses of politicians. Not the ones he slept with, the ones they slept with. Okay, now, and then he was convicted. Now, who's a person who sleeps with Playboy models and has unprotected sex with them? Now, Bouchard had an abortion and she didn't get $150,000, she got $1.6 million. Now, you make any conclusion you like out of that, okay, I'm just telling you the facts of what happened, okay? Now, but even if it's not Bouchard and even if Trump didn't do that, you know what I just told you. We know because of the Stormy Daniels story and the others. He has unprotected sex with them. Now, you think that a guy as stupid and careless as Donald Trump is gonna make sure that somebody doesn't get pregnant? So am I surprised that Avenatti's talking about how there's more women and now there's issues about pregnancies? I am not remotely surprised. I'd be surprised if it was in the other direction, after having all of these affairs, all of this unprotected sex, that there was no pregnancy ever. So
look, Avenatti's a lawyer, so he understands the kind of risk he puts himself in if he's making false claims. You know, he's not saying, I think Michael Cohen has this evidence. He's saying, I know. You know, he's making a very declarative statement, and if it is false and he's making things up, well, then that's a huge legal liability. But he, you know, I've rejected Avenatti stories in the past because it usually plays out this way, where he makes some bold statement before I've seen evidence, and I'm like, I don't think it's a good idea to talk about that until we see the evidence. And then soon enough, we see the evidence. And so, look, this is my opinion, but I'm inclined to believe him. And we will find out soon enough because prosecutors did manage to raid Michael Cohen and get all of these tapes. So we'll figure it out later. By the way, real quick, Avenatti also says Cohen has evidence and info in his possession and it must be released to the public. And he's not the only one who's making these allegations. A Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, David K. Johnston is also making these allegations. I'll give you his quote in just a second, so go ahead.
So on Avenatti, he said, look, check my track record. And Anna's right. In the beginning, I was a little skeptical too. I was skeptical of the Brody story. But then, you know, things turned out. You know what I was skeptical about? And you could go back and watch the old videos of us. I was skeptical about the so-called P-tape from Russia, right? But now the evidence keeps mounting and mounting and mounting, and I'm beginning to think maybe they did have a tape. I don't think they needed tape on him. I think they got a lot on Trump without the tape.
Yep.
But and Avenatti says, look, I've been right every time, and to be fair, he has been. And there's a difference between me saying, look, I think the Bouchard story is really fishy, and I question it. But do I know that Bouchard slept with Trump instead? No, I don't know that yet. That's why I think an investigation is important, and that's why you should have somebody, an investigator, do that, a special counsel or whoever it might be, as opposed to me speculating about it. But Avenatti is a lawyer, and he's not saying I think he's saying it is.
Right.
And he has been right in the past.
Exactly. So now let's go to David K. Johnston, as I mentioned, a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. He said, and I quote, "We know the Russians have been courting Donald, spending money on him and putting money in his pocket for more than 30 years. Donald's son, one of his sons, has said they were getting lots of money from Russians and he'd been deeply involved with deals with Russian gangsters." By the way, that's another thing that the media just kind of glossed over, including us, right? Like, we reported that story, and then the news cycle is just so crazy, so chaotic, so fast moving that we oftentimes forget, like, Trump's son on the record said that they had these deals with the Russians.
Actually, two of his sons did. And so, look, I mean, why do you think I think that Trump has a deal with Russia? I've been saying it for now well over a year. I think he's been doing money laundering for the Russians. Why do I say that? Did I just pull it out of thin air? No, there's a lot of publicly available evidence, including his two sons saying, "Oh yeah, we got money from the Russians." One of them said, a golf reporter had asked them, "How'd you get all the money for the golf course, especially because your dad went bankrupt 6 times? I mean, nobody would lend you money." He's like, "Oh no, we got it from the Russians." And he added, "The Russians apparently really like golf."
Oh my God.
Oh, he's so stupid. Oh, they're so dumb. But I'll tell you, that's actually, by the way, a little bit of evidence that the sons don't know that the money is illicit. To be fair to the sons, like, if maybe they're so stupid they say it outwardly anyway, but it's likely that if you think like, oh, the Russians actually really like golf, they're so dumb. Okay, that's why they gave us. That's why you would tell a reporter, Russians like golf. That's why they give us hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay, so all of that is on the record, and David K. Johnston also talked about the affairs and the tapes. And now there's another news story out that it might not be 12 tapes that Michael Cohen has, it might be hundreds of tapes. So Donald Trump is in a panic. He's not in a panic because he didn't do it. He's in a panic because he did do it. So there's a lot of things that are already obvious that we just keep gliding past, including Donald Trump saying, being outraged that Michael Cohen turned on him. If I had lawyers like that, why would I be bothered that they quote unquote turned on me? I haven't done anything wrong, right? But if you did do something wrong and you told your lawyer, then you would come out like Trump is. I can't, but what kind of a lawyer would tape somebody like that? What is he doing? We can't have this happen, right? Because he obviously didn't. He did many different things. There's the sex, but much more importantly is what are his financial connections to the Russians?
Right now would be a good time to make your ticking clock sound thing.
All right, tick, 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 tick. And it is, guys, look, I'll tell you the last thing on this. His demise is, and I've been wrong on timing and I've made really bold predictions on that, but his demise is, I think, is going to come quicker than you think. And because all this stuff, they already have it. They have Cohen's tapes. They have all the things he's done in public. They have so much material already. And look, here's the possibility that I'm wrong about everything and Donald Trump has actually led a perfectly legal life. That he just did all these deals with the Russians and they were perfectly above board and he did not sleep with Bashar or pay for her abortion and then he did pay off the woman to be silent, but it was not campaign finance violation. That's possible. And if that's true, we'll find out soon. But if I'm even 10% right, it is criminal to a degree we have not seen in this country, including Richard Nixon.
The likes of which we have never seen before.
Right, so that fire and fury at some point is gonna close in on him, and I think that point is really, really close. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.